Hello, welcome to Study Circle. Today we are going to read Class 8 Standard Civics Chapter 8 Law and Social Justice. In this chapter we will read about that many of the people directly or indirectly involved in the production of any object. In this procedure they faced exploitation in many situations. To protect people from such exploitation, the government makes certain laws. These laws try to ensure that the unfair practices are kept at minimum in the markets. A major role of the government is to control the activities of private sector by making, enforcing and upholding laws to prevent unfair practice and ensure social justice. Significance of law. Laws are necessary in many situations, whether this be the market, office or factory, to protect people from unfair practices. For example, Minimum Wages Act discussed below. The major provision of this act the act specifies the wages should not be below a specified minimum. Means the act specifies that wages should not be below a specified minimum. Need of the law. Why we need this act? Many workers are denied fair wages by their employers because workers badly need work and remain with no bargaining power. Who are the beneficiaries of this law? All workers, particularly farm labor, construction workers, factory workers, domestic workers, etc. To make higher profit, private companies, contractors, etc. resort to unfair practices such as paying workers low wages, employing children for work, ignoring the condition of the work, ignoring the damage to the environment, thus increases the necessity of the law. Role of government: strict implementation of the law. Merely making law is not enough. The government must ensure that these laws must be enforced. For instance, the government must regularly inspect work sites and punish those who violate the Minimum Wages Act. Check one private companies. Through making enforcing and upholding laws, the government can control the activities of individuals as private companies. Uphold the constitutional mandate. Many of the laws have their basis in the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. For instance, right against exploitation says that first, no one can be forced to work for low wages or under bondage. Secondly, no child below the age of 14 years shall be employed to work in any factory or mines or engaged in any hazardous employment. There is a very infamous incident happens, that Bhopal gas tragedy, the world's worst industrial disaster. An American company, Union Carbide, had a pesticide producing factory in Bhopal. At midnight on 2nd December 1984, methyl isocyanate, a highly poisonous gas, started leaking from the factory. Within 3 days, more than 8,000 people were dead, hundreds of thousands were maimed. Maimed means injured. Most or paralyzed. Most of those exposed to the poison gas came from poor working class families, of which nearly 50,000 people are today too sick to work. Among those who survived, many developed severe respiratory disorders, eye problems, and other disorders. Children developed peculiar abnormalities. UC had deliberately ignored the essential safety measures to cut costs. In the ensuing legal battle, the government represented the victims in a civil case against UC. It filed $3 billion compensation in 1985 but accepted a lowly $470 million in 1989. Survivors appealed against the settlement, but the Supreme Court ruled that the settlement amount would stand. Union Carbide stopped its operation but left behind tons of toxic chemicals. These have seeped into the ground, contaminating water. Dow Chemical, the company who now owns the plant, refuses to take responsibility for cleanup. Even after decades, fight for justice to the victim is ongoing. It is to get safe drinking water, health care facilities and jobs for the people poisoned by Union Carbide. People also demand that Anderson, the UC chairman who faces criminal charges, be prosecuted. Particular. In West Virginia and in Bhopal. Warning and monitoring system. In West Virginia, it is computerized, but in Bhopal, it is manual and rely on human sense to detect gas leakages. Emergency evacuation plans in West Virginia, in this place. In Bhopal, it's non-existent. It is a comparison of Union Carbide safety system. Root cause of the disaster. The safety laws were lax in India. Even these weak safety laws are not enforced. Government officials refused to recognize the plant as hazardous and allowed it to come up in a populated locality. Government overlooked safety violation for continued investment and employment. It was unthinkable to the official to ask UC to shift to cleaner technology or safer procedures. Government inspectors continued to approve the procedures in the plant even when repeated incidents of leaks from the plant made it obvious to everybody that things were seriously wrong. Instead of protecting the interest of the people, their safety was being disregarded both by the government and by the private companies. Status of Indian worker. They are easy replacement. Large unemployment rate exists and many workers get ready to work in unsafe conditions in return for low wage. Vulnerability. Make use of workers' vulnerability. Employers ignore safety in workplaces. Reason for foreign companies coming to India. The very important is that the availability of cheap labor. Wages that companies pay to workers, say in USA, are far higher than what they must pay to workers in countries like India. Long working hours. Companies can get longer working hours even after paying low wages. Fewer additional expenses, such as housing facilities for workers. Cost cutting by another mm, more dangerous means. Cost cutting by other more dangerous means. Lower working condition, including lower safety measures. For example, in the UC plant, every safety device was malfunctioning or was in short supply. Between 1980 and 84, the work crew for the MIC plant was cut in half from 12 to 6 workers. The period of safety training for workers was brought down from 6 months to 15 days. Duty of government. As the law worker, what is the duty of government? As the lawmaker and enforcer, the government is supposed to ensure that safety laws are implemented properly. Government also need to ensure that right to life guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution is not violated. New laws to protect the environment. Before Bhopal disaster in 1984, there were few laws protecting the environment in India and there was hardly any enforcement of these laws. The environment was treated as a free entity. Whether it was rivers, air, groundwater, the environment was being polluted and health of the people disregarded. After Bhopal disaster, several thousand of persons who are not associated within the factory or any way were greatly affected because of the poisonous gas leaked from the plant, and this highlighted the importance of the environment. Indian government introduced new laws on the environment. Henceforth, the polluter was to be held accountable for the damage done to the environment. Here you can see some images from your NCERT book from Bhopal gas tragedy. Role of judiciary. The court also gave several judgments upholding the right to a healthy environment as intrinsic to the fundamental right to life. In Subhas Kumar versus State of Bihar, the Supreme Court held that right to life is a fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution and includes the right of the enjoyment of pollution-free water and air for full enjoyment of life. Now, some interesting points of this chapter is that according to 2011 census, over 4 million children in India aged between 5 and 14 work in a various occupation, including hazardous ones. In 2016, Parliament amended the Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986, banning the employment of children below the age of 14 years in all occupation and of adolescents in 14 to 18 years in hazardous occupation and processes. It made employing the children or adolescents a cognizable offense. A new portal was started named Pencil Portal. The full form of Pencil Portal is that Platform for Effective Enforcement for No Child Labor. Platform for Effective Enforcement for No Child Labor. That is Pencil. It has become functional in 2017. It is an online portal meant for filing of complaint, child tracking, implementation, and monitoring of National Child Labour Project (NCLP). Sustainable Development Goal. In Sustainable Development Goal 8, decent work and economic growth. In Goal 9, it refers industry, innovation and infrastructure. In series of rulings in 1998 onwards, the Supreme Court had ordered all public transport vehicles in Delhi using diesel were to switch to CNG, that is compressed natural gas. Thank you.